Hello guys and welcome to a new video. Well, today we are here with a Lost Ark video and we're gonna talk about characters. Yesterday I streamed the game and well, the stream was really insane. There was a lot of people in there. So I just wanna take this little second and say thank you to all of you. It was really fun yesterday. Well, a lot of people was asking me, Smerlow, what class you prefer? Smerlow, what class can I play? Smerlow, I just joined this game, I have no clue. What can I play? So, in today's video, well, we're gonna cover these questions. I was explaining it a lot yesterday in the stream. I was giving a lot of tips. Well, first of all, I am not the best player. I played it, now quite a while. I tested some different characters. We are just on another server where I don't have any characters because all my character slots are full. I don't know everything about every class, right? But I try my best. I always tell you when these informations are coming from me, if I heard them or if I think it is like that, right? So you can get a really good opinion on it. First of all, I want to mention something. Well, here are the classes that we can choose, right? But we go real quick to the next stage already, because I want to show you something first. We're just gonna build now any character. Well, here you can customize your characters and stuff like that. Well, this video is not going to be about this, so we're just gonna create this character. And I just want to create this character fast for one reason. Because I want to show first something for new players, since you can basically test this character. So we're gonna start with him, and we can skip the prologue. That means we're gonna start directly at level 10. That's something you can normally also do on the EU/Western release. One thing, keep in mind, we are playing on the Russia server, so not all the classes will be probably there on the release. I'm gonna talk about every class that we have here, but that doesn't mean they're gonna be there directly at the EU release, because some classes are maybe coming later with some content, so they're like content gated, and we have to wait. So this is now something where everyone is going to be. After you reach level 10, you come into the test wheel, where we are now are. And in this test stream, you can test the classes, and that's the reason why I want to show you that. Because, well, we're gonna talk about the classes, I'm gonna explain you my experiences with the classes, gonna talk a bit, like where they are good, what is like the overall opinion of the most peoples on these classes and whatever. But after all of that, you still decide what class you want to play, right? So you need to choose a character that you feel like playing. Like you're gonna spend a lot of time on him. And, well, there are some classes that are better in damage. But the game is like this, at least for like Russia, Korea and Japan, where the game is released yet. Everyone is taking every class everywhere. So that means if you are like another class that I mentioned is like top DPS or whatever, they will still take you in raids, maybe for other reasons than just pure DPS. So you have a chance to get into raids with every class. That means you can choose everything, right? So you're not blocked somewhere that you are not allowed to play any content because people don't want you in their group or so. And, well, we started now as a magician, right? That is our primary class. And then we have, for the mage over here, 3 subclasses. There's a 4th class that is going to be added at some point. Well, first on Korea, it's not even out yet there. And at some point we get it in Russia, and at some point we probably also get it in EU, but that takes a long amount of time. But for now, we have these 3 classes here. I think we're not going to get Arcana on the EU release, but again, right, we're going to talk about everything. So you can choose whatever you want here. We're not going directly to explain the characters, but I want to show you something first. We can take Arcana for now, right? It's more like a battle mage. If we take Arcana, we can test the abilities. We cannot test every abilities because, well, right now I'm pressing the button to open the skill tree with all our skills. And it tells me this window cannot be opened during class change. That means we cannot test every attack, but we still get a kind of feeling how the class feels, right? So when we are testing this stuff, we see that it's doing a lot of card damage, and it is really mobile. A lot of the skills are just you jumping around and stuff like that. So this class is more like somewhat a battle mage. Like you are still like somewhat range, but also like melee, right? So like a battle mage. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that. And if you want to test another class of the mage, you can change class, and then you can pick, as an example, summoner. You can click on test class, so we can test the class, right? So we can like test the skills and see a bit how they feel like. We can also summon monsters over here. Summon monsters, thanks. And then we can like attack them to like see a bit how it would work while we are fighting, right? And then if you like something like this, you have like already a better opinion for yourself if you want to play this character or not. If we are done with the testing, right, we can click on end test. And then we go over here. And well, we're gonna choose our final class. We cannot change this after this anymore. So that means you have basically to decide what class you want to play. You can always change your skill tree for free, but you can never change your class. That means if you pick summoner, you're gonna be a summoner for the rest of your life, basically, with that character, right? If you pick a bard, you're gonna be a bard for the rest of your life. So that means at level 10, right? If you don't skip the prologue, you have to do like some questions, but at level 10, you have to decide what you want to be. And that's why I do this video, because a lot of people don't even know what classes are for what. And yeah, we're gonna cover this now. We just go back to the character selection, right? And then we're gonna talk about this. Okay, and there we are. So we're gonna click on new character so I can show you all the classes and talk about it. So again, we have so far 5 subclass, like 5 primary classes. There will be a 6th that is going to be added. I don't know if this is like added in Korea already. Like I really have not that much knowledge about Korea. But yeah, so maybe there will be a 6th added because there's a slot for it. But for now, we have warrior, magician, fighter, hunter, and assassin. Well, warriors are basically more melees. Magicians are like, well, magic dudes, like any witches and stuff like that, or magicians, right? Fighter is more like classes that are like melee, but or like mid-range, like something in between of a range and a melee mostly. Some of them are pure melee, and some of them are like mid-range. Hunter, well, hunters, you know, like guys with guns, with bows, with rifles, with rocket launchers. Yes, I said rocket launchers. And well, assassins are like rogues, basically. I mean, it's an assassin, right? So that's how you can look on it at first. Well, if you want to go more specific into it, if you click here on Berserker, you're going to see like also a preview of his attacks where he's attacking some monsters, to also show you a little bit again the playstyle. And well, we're going to talk about those classes first. So the first thing we're going to compare is a Berserker and a Destroyer. The reason why we compare this is these are basically the damage dealers of the warrior spec, right? A warlock can also do damage, but it's still like something else. So we're going to talk about this later. But first of all, we're going to take a look into Berserker and Destroyer. The main difference is basically a Destroyer is tankier but slower, but a Berserker is, well, not the fastest class in the game, but faster, but also a bit weaker. Well, that is the main difference, right? Destroyer is, at the moment of the game, the best damage class. Berserker is not. Well, if Destroyer is the best damage class, right? In case someone cares about that. But yeah, a Destroyer has like this big hammer, and its attacks are working like this. So you have like skills that have like a blue skin or whatever, and these skills are like there to fill up your attack power, and you like generate gravity charges is the name as far as I remember. And if you have 3 gravity charges, you have other spells. They're like more purple, like they are like purple in the skill bar, right? And if you have more gravity charges, they are like uploaded and do more damage. So basically you have some attacks you do to get power first, and then you can use that power with your other abilities, right, to make more damage. Overall, a destroyer is really, really good for impairment and destruction. Well, if you don't know what this is right now, I mean, this is not going to be a full guide about everything, otherwise this guide is going to take like an hour. But just real quick, destructions means like there are sometimes bosses, like as an example, a turtle, it has a shell. If you break through that shell, you make like 10 times more damage or so. So with destruction skills, you can break this shell. And impairment is like basically to stun, well, and to cancel attacks from certain bosses. Like that's just a quick overview of it, right? But there's like more in detail into it, but this is for other guys. So we have the destroyer, he's like hammer, slower. And while Berserker is with a two-hand sword, he's a bit faster, as you can also see already on the video. Both of them has like a cyclone attack, so you can also see them as cycloners. Well, it's not their only attack, it's not like the only skill you're always gonna play, but there you see, they have also cyclone. I mean, it's an important part for a lot of players somehow, so yeah, I just wanted to mention this. But yeah, there are melee classes, he's a bit slower, he's a bit faster. Then we have the Warlord. The Warlord is a really interesting class. For the Warlord, if you want to play this, you really need to know the bosses if you want to play him perfectly. He is somewhat easy to play since he also has a lot of tankiness and tanky abilities. He is like, well, the guy that is closest to be a tank. He can taunt bosses, but there's the reason why you have to know bosses, since you cannot like taunt always, there's like a cooldown on it and whatever, and you cannot generate aggro. You can just like taunt real quick like with this taunt attack, and that's it. Like that's the only aggro generation that you have in the game. But yeah, if you know the boss and you know like certain attacks, you can save your group with that. So you can make the life easier in terms of like turning the boss away with like a cleave, and then like doing a tanky ability to tank it away or dodge it yourself if you're good enough. And so on. You can save, first of all, new players. You can make it easier for players to just stand in a position to stack all their buffs and damage and whatever. Okay, and then we are coming to the Holy Knight / Paladin. And a Holy Knight is more like a supporter. There are like two supporter classes in the game. Holy Knight is basically the melee, and Holy Knight is in general more damage than defensivity. He also has defensivity abilities, he can also heal, but he is more there for damage buffing. Well, and that's it, right? So he's a melee. And then we just go directly to Magician, and we're gonna start with a Bard, because the Bard is basically the opposite of a Holy Knight. The Bard is more like a range class, and it is also a support, but more defensive. So it is totally the opposite. If you start playing a Bard in PvE content, you're always gonna be a supporter. I just want to mention something real quick. For the guys that cares about PvP, we was talking about like the warriors. I know for a fact that a lot of people's fear if there's like a destroyer. Like a lot of people's hating fighting against destroyers in PvP. I also have a destroyer, and it's really easy. Like I don't really understand my class so good, but it feels really easy to do PvP with it. If you do PvP as a Bard, that also works. Yes, we are mainly a support class, but a Bard has, like, as an example in PvP, a different playstyle. You go in, you stun like the enemies, and then you just make this laser. Well, perfect. And then you make this laser, and then you run away again and wait for your cooldown. So you're just like going in, stunning, running away. A destroyer is, like, as an example, always in the fight. So like the PvP combat style changes also from class to class. I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, for PvE, you're gonna be a supporter. You can still do the solo stuff with like a damage skill tree. In case someone needs a damage skill tree, you can always come to my stream and ask me, because Bard is the class that I'm gonna main as well, and I'm maining it currently as well. So this is the class where I can talk the most about it, right? But yeah, I don't really want to spend a lot of time to talk now only about this class. But yeah, he's a supporter, again, more defensive. When you start playing him, like, his abilities are kind of slow, so you also want to know somewhat the bosses. Later, when you get more stats, the attacks are faster, so you have more time to dodge. But at the start, it is a bit harder, but then again, you have like a lot of defensive abilities, and that makes the thing good again for you. Like, you're gonna survive, like, well, if you're not really standing every void AoE or whatever, right? But yeah, that's that for him. And then, well, we have Summoner. Summoner is also like one of the easier classes in the game. It is also something I recommend for new players since it is really easy, as well as Destroyer and Berserker is too. Again, as a warlord, you really want to know the bosses. If you want to play a support, well, you can grab Holy Knight or Bard, that's up to you. They are both good. I mean, in general, every class is like somewhat good, right? But Summoner is, well, really easy, and you can also summon like minions. You can skill that your minions are doing a lot of more damage. This is like the main way that you go. For some bosses, they have sometimes abilities where you are not allowed to attack them anymore. And there, well, you can have two options. Rather, you just specifically notified, and you don't really gonna summon any minions while he is like about to channel this attack. Or you skill differently that you do damage yourself. Well, this only counts for very few bosses, not a lot. But that's like the way how you can go around this. But other than this, Summoner is really good for beginner because you can like run a lot, you can dodge a lot of stuff. You're not gonna stay in monsters, and even if you run, you can still do damage because of your minions, right? So you can still give something to the group. And then we have Arcaner, which I mentioned before already. And well, Arcana is like doing damage over cards. It's more like a battle mage. And but it is harder to play. Like, it is not that hard to like start out with it, but if you want to like play it perfectly and do everything perfect, then it is where it comes to be really hard. While he is the mage with the most movability, well, again, he is not really a mage in that case. But if someone likes like characters that can also go fast and whatever, and still can be somewhat on range, well, then this is maybe the class for you. But again, like, to play it perfectly and to do the most damage as you can, it is quite harder, since you have to like a lot to care about while you are fighting. Well, and then we come to the fighters. Well, for the fighters, I have to say that I never played myself any one of them. I know for a fact that Soul Master is like, well, also like, let's say a battle mage or so, because while he is mostly melee, but also somewhat mid-range. Do anything mid-range, please, sir. Well, he has like these lasers and stuff like that, as an example. And, well, he's not like really range, but like mid-range. He's switching from melee to like mid-range all the time. That counts for the most classes here. Well, if you want to like compare to like World of Warcraft or so, like just as an example, because like World of Warcraft is something that a lot of people are knowing, they are probably the monks from World of Warcraft at the end, right? Again, the thing is, I cannot really talk a lot about it. What people told me, that Soul Master is also really good in damage in PvE. Battle Master is, as far as I know, also really good with like impermanent stuff. And has a bit of like a slower playstyle, and he is more like melee at all, right? So he is like somewhat in between of an assassin and a warrior, if you would say so. About the Lance Master, I have no clue about this class. I know that when it was coming out in Russia, a lot of people wanted to play him. But as you can see, it's also like somewhat melee and mid-range. He is like an okay-ish class. People are saying that it feels really good to play him. He's not like the highest in damage or so, but it is an interesting class, so you can actually give it a try, right? Well, not saying that it is a bad class, because again, that is not really existing. You just have to find the class for yourself. But yeah, then again, I cannot really talk a lot about it since I never played it, and I don't want to tell you something wrong. Again, the people told me that it feels really good, and well, as we see here, it's also like melee and mid-range, right? Somewhat. He also has mobility, which is also shown over here. So this is also something you should always take a look at. Like if you, yeah, well, oh no, this is only for the fighter class, sorry. But yeah, so like they are more like mobility and stuff like that, and like half attack. If you look at warriors, they are less mobility, and if you look at assassins, they are like more mobility, right? So, and well, more attack. So like assassins are like, you know, well, rogues. Warrior is like a typical warrior. And well, the fighters, I don't really know why the range thing is so low, because of like Soulmaster as an example, because it's still mid-range. But yeah, it's not like quite accurate, but like somewhat. I also cannot really say if like the Battle Master and stuff like that is hard to play. I was watching some people playing it and it was looking really chill, but I can be wrong on this. Again, you can go to the test room, test it out if you like the attacks. I just know like Soulmaster should be good in damage, if you care just about that. But that doesn't mean that this is like the only class that is playable or whatever. And if you don't like be able to play the class correctly, right? Like maybe you do more damage with another class. So now let's go to the hunters. I'm just gonna start talking first about the Devil Hunter. It was actually the first class that I ever played myself. And well, at the start, you're gonna have to do weapon swaps. As you see here, he's swapping from his handgun to like his shotgun to like a sniper rifle. Perfect. And well, you can be a melee with your shotgun. You normally use the handgun skills to like support the next attacks. And well, the sniper is for range, right? Other than this, well, you're gonna have like a rotation where you use the most of the time at the beginning your shotgun. At least back then when I was playing it was like that. Later on, you can get an engraving skill. So like just a skill. Let's say you can get a skill for it later. The more you play, it gets clearer for you, and we're gonna solve this in other guides. But just for your understanding, later you can switch to a build where you only use the handgun, right? So you don't have to weapon swap all the time and whatever. And this weapon swap, like it also counts for like other classes over here. Weapon swapping can feel quite difficult because you're gonna have like your skill bar, and then you have two different buttons to swap your weapons. And well, you have to press a lot of buttons, and you always have to track on what weapon you are. So like if you're a shotgun, you cannot press the same skills as with your rifle, right? And well, it is like quite difficult at the beginning, I will say. It was at least also feeling for me like that, and I played a lot of this game, so it was also really hard for me to get into it. After a while you get a feeling for it, but it takes time, so don't be like, if you want to start it, don't be frustrated if it doesn't work directly. You will get at that point where you can do it blindly, but it takes some time. It is not like the best beginner class, I would say, because it can be frustrating if you don't really get the stuff with the weapon swapping. But at some point, like, you get there, okay? Also depending on like your skill level and whatever. But if you like to play something more chill, then to start out with this class is not for you. Later with the handgunner build, which is also insanely good, then it is more chill again. But you need to come to that step. Well, and then we have Hawkeye. Hawkeye is basically, well, the best in range from them all. He is like the sniper. He also has melee attacks though. Right, like everything in this game also has somewhat melee attacks, but he's more like a sniper. He's also really cool in PvP. The thing is, I don't really know what balance patch we get on EU. On Korea, as far as I know, they are really good. On Russia, they're like somewhat okayish. To be fair, no one really likes to play them. I don't really see a lot of Hawkeyes in Russia. And again, we don't know what patch we get. But again, right, it is still a viable class. You can still play it everywhere. I just know for like any reason that people are not really wants to play it. It's not like the biggest damage or so, but maybe you also really like the playstyle and you're gonna stay more on range on this class than I think on every other class. So that means it's like sometimes easier to dodge stuff. Like a lot of bosses have like melee attacks, melee cleave attacks, so you never really take the risk to stay in there. And to be fair, if you are like a melee and you die a lot, you don't really provide anything to the group, right? If you are dead, you not do damage. So even if this class is a bit weaker in damage, maybe for our patch, whatever, it can still be quite useful for someone that is just not good at dodging. Like, there's no shame at it, right? It is really hard to learn patterns from bosses and whatever. Like, if you cannot dodge certain attacks, or if you just completely hate some bosses, there's no shame. Like, whatever, guys. You are not alone. And, well, this can make it maybe easier for certain bosses. Then we have the Blaster. The Blaster is normally the second highest DPS you can play. Well, he has this big rocket launchers and whatever. Well, he is really slow. So he's doing quite a lot of damage, but then again, because he is so slow, I would recommend you to like always watch at least a guide for a boss or whatever. Like, otherwise you're gonna die a lot. Like, he can also place towers and shit like that, which is also awesome. But he is really slow, so if you like channel an attack while a boss is attacking as well at the same time, well, you are the loser, right? Because yes, you're gonna do damage to him, but he's going to do more damage to you. So this can be still quite somewhat hard if you fight against bosses that you don't know. Well, again, as long as you know the bosses and you can play your full rotation and whatever and do all your skills without like any hassle and do them perfectly, then you have like one of the most damage opportunities. And then there's a Scouter. Well, I never play the Scouter too. But well, I heard a lot about it because this is like, well, the Reaper was the last class that we got right now, but before it was Scouter, as far as I'm not wrong. Or even they got released at the same time. I'm not really sure about that. But it's like one of the newest classes that we got in Russia. And, well, a Scouter is interesting. You have like this little drone that you also have to interact with. Like, you have to like throw it out and like to move it and place it and stuff like that correctly. So it is again a bit more to press. Well, if you master this class, it is also insanely good in damage and everything. But again, it's like a bit harder to get used to it. I know a lot of people from the stream that was also like starting to play it. Well, some guys was really good with it, and some guys just told me, yo, Smerlo, I don't really get that stuff with the drone. I gonna play something else. Again, every one of you has to find out what is the best for him. If you think you can handle this, it is a really cool class. If you have the feeling like this will be too much of a hassle for you, then, well, maybe don't play it. I mean, try it out, but maybe this is like not going to be your main character then. Again, it can be quite good if you can handle the drone, but you really need to be good at that. Also for PvP though. And then, well, we have Assassins. Assassins are basically the rogues. The newest class we got is a Reaper, and a Reaper is really the classical rogue. Like, he can do backstepping, so that means teleport behind enemies, he can go invis, he can also do that stuff in PvP. And it has a lot of movability, and he can like port to enemies and shit like that. It feels really, really cool. Like, you just have the feeling like that you are an assassin. Right there, it's like invis, like his shadow clone is fighting against the boss, so he can like go behind him and attack him. This is like a this is a PvE scenario, but it is, wait, that is the PvE arena, right? Like, that's one of the quests. I don't even know if that was in a PvE arena or like against another player, but I think it was the PvE arena. But that's how PvP looks like. It's like you're gonna port behind them, you're gonna like always attack, do insane damage, go out, attack, do insane damage. But not like a bard where you just have to wait like an hour before you go in again. But it feels a lot better and a lot faster. A Reaper is going to go on a lot of crits, so you're not gonna have a lot of defensive abilities, but, well, you're not gonna have a lot of defensivities, but you are mobile. Like, your mobility is just so good. Like, you need to dodge a lot, but it's also a lot easier because you're a lot faster, right? Like, sometimes bosses are channeling attacks where you have like an hour time. At least when you have done them sometimes, it feels like an hour time that you have, right? When it is the first time, it feels like overwhelming. That's normal. But yeah, as you see, like he was jumping at him, he's just directly porting under him like instantly. If you get that feeling for this class is really insane. But again, you are like, your defensivity is not so great. Well, it counts for the most of the counts for every of the assassins. But this is like basically, I would say, the weakest class. But also like in terms of damage, like if you master it, and it is a really cool playstyle. It is really, really great. Well, and then we have Blade and Demonic. Well, for this I also have to say I never played Blade or Demonic yet. Again, we cannot really talk a lot about these classes. They are assassins too, so that means a lot of mobility and stuff like that. I actually leveled the Blade a little bit. I was only to level 30 or so. Like the leveling phase was feeling really fast because of the movability and the attacks. It feels really cool. It is not like that classic rogue, like he cannot like really port so much behind enemies, he cannot go invis like a Reaper and whatever. But it's still a really good class. Like, if again we will go like to maybe World of Warcraft, I would maybe say like they're more like, not really, well, Demonic is more like a demon hunter, I would say. And Blade is more like a weapon rogue or so, like I don't really know, the combat rogue, maybe like that, right? So he's not like the typical assassin, but he's also really, really good. It makes a lot of fun to play those classes. Like, try them out if you like a fast playstyle, and this could be the class for you. Again, they are weaker, they are melees, but they are also really faster. So you just feel like you are a ninja in real life. But yeah, that's it for all the classes we have in Russia. If you look at the site from playlostarc.com, there are no destroyers and there are no arcaners as an example, so that's why I think they are not going to be there. But yeah, if you want to do like the highest damage, I would recommend you to play whether what is the name? Blaster. I don't really know how they call it in our version, but highest damage is probably going to be Blaster. Maybe like Soulmaster is also good. Again, I didn't play it. I'm gonna play a Bardas main and a Berserker myself, for those who care. Well, if you just care about this, right? If you want to play like one of the mobiles classes, well, we only have then normally Blade and Demonic. Play one of those. We don't have a Destroyer, so if you like that melee warrior playstyle, then go Berserker. If you want to be somewhat like a tank, go Warlord. If you want to be a supporter, go Red or Holy Knight or Bard. While the difference again, Bard more defensive and range, Holy Knight more offensive and melee. So you have to decide that for yourself. While Soulmaster is more like, and Lancemaster probably as well, is more like a melee / mid-range. It's like these classes are somewhat in between warrior or assassin. So if you see like a lot of negativities and positivities about assassin and the same for warrior, then maybe the fighter is the class for you, because it's like the class in between. And well, if you just want to stay on range, then go summoner. If you want to be something like a battle mage, then go arcaner. Again, arcaner to mastered, it's a bit harder. But yeah, it will work out. Don't worry. Like, it's more important to know the bosses and stuff like that in the game first, so you can be able to survive, and then you can also like try to master your class meanwhile. And as soon as you get it, it gets easy from that point on. But even if you know your class perfectly, but you don't know the bosses, especially like Guardian raids, they don't really show you like on the ground like void zones and whatever, so you need to learn their pattern. And after you learned it, then you can always attack. If you don't learn it, they will knock you down a lot of the time or even kill you, and then you're gonna lose with every class. The game is not so easy to start out. It's not like, I mean, the story mode is really, really easy. The first bosses are as well, but then it gets drastically higher in terms of difficulty. For me, I play a lot of those games. I didn't felt it to be really, really hard, but I can see points where like a lot of new players, especially like if you're completely new to the genre or whatever, can have problems. Well, I mean, it's just about learning. Also watch some guides. Like some bosses are really easy if you know where to stand, and sometimes it just needs to have like one guy that tells you two things about a boss, and your world is going to change. Like the boss is going to be so easy after that. Like there are bosses where you never want to stay like in front of them or behind them mostly. Uh, just like maybe if they're doing one attack, so that means you're gonna look at the guide. He tells you when he is doing this attack, you have like so many seconds. You can go behind him and do all your attacks from there, because you have like attacks that are doing more damage when you hit his back, as an example. Other ways, they're always on the side of the boss, and then this boss becomes totally easy. If you like try to like do frontal attacks on this boss, like, forget it. You need to be insanely fast at reactions. If you stay on the side, it's whatever. He doesn't really do us any damage around him, so you are fine, right? Stuff like that. Also, other stuff counts for other bosses, so yeah. But again, this is like not a guide for bosses, just like as a little information. But yeah, overall, the game is really cool, and I really like it. And this is hopefully going to be my new main game. I'm still gonna play Part of Exile for those who know me from there, but I'm gonna play this game now a lot more. And I'm really excited that we got the EU release, so I'm really glad that we get it. And yeah, hope to see you all there. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.